Okay, it's time for us to talk relationships, and Michelle Emogwari is back with us this morning to discuss why people stay in abusive relationships. Just so you know, Michelle is a certified family life and CBT practitioner, as well as the founder of Insight to Wellness. It's such a pleasure to have you in the studio with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so when we talk about staying in abusive relationships, first let's establish what exactly is abuse.
Right.
What exactly is it? Because it's a very thin line. What exactly makes up abuse?
Okay. When you talk about abuse, you're talking about behavior that impacts another person negatively. So whether you think you're abusing somebody or not is irrelevant. How are your actions impacting the other person? So abuse involves you treating somebody with cruelty. It involves you, so the elements of abuse are things like harassment, constant harassment, intimidation, physical violence, yelling, you know. But what makes it abuse is when, you know, it's now repeated and it impacts the person, especially mentally. You know, so whether you think, oh, I was just playing, can't you take a joke, you're too sensitive, as long as the other person feels like you're being cruel, feels like, look, what you're doing to me is affecting me mentally, you know, it is abuse. And, you know, when you have that repeated cycles, I mean, people can lose control and maybe hit somebody once. As long as it doesn't happen again, it will be unfair to call such person an abuser. But when there's constant, you know, hitting, yelling, harassing, harassing, you know, anything that makes a person feel less than, it is abuse, regardless of what the person thinks.
So now that we've been able to establish what abuse is, let's talk about why people stay in abusive situations.
Okay.
Because it's usually a case of everyone around you can see that there's a problem. But you are so madly in love, you can't even imagine your life without the person. Why do people stay in such relationships?
So there are many angles, honestly. And, okay, so you talked about love, so I'll just start with that. So people think, and I mean, you can't, this is the person's reality. You can't tell them they are not in love. You know, so somebody says, oh, I'm just so in love with this person and I can't go. But more often than not, it's more of a lack of self-love. You don't value yourself enough to say, I deserve better. You know, so you stick it there. And sometimes what makes it really difficult is, you know, maybe societal expectations. We have this expectation that, oh, a relationship is only perfect if it's long, you know, so we look for longevity. How long has it been? And we use that to judge how good a relationship is. So people feel, you know, obliged to stay in. And in a marriage, for instance, you can't leave. You know, people would, why are you leaving? You know, just stay, just endure for the sake of the children, you know, things like that. So societal expectations keep people in abusive relationships. And then there's also the, you know, when somebody has, when somebody is used to chaos, when somebody is used to abuse, so if all your life, all you've known, maybe as, you know, from childhood through your teenage years and now as an adult, if all you've known is people yelling at you, nobody ever apologizing when they wrong you, nobody ever exactly, and you're used to that, you won't even know that what you're going through is abuse. So if somebody even, and you know, that's why sometimes when you tell people, oh, what are you still doing there? Get out of that marriage, get out of that relationship. It's hard because the person doesn't even understand that what they are dealing with is abuse. So you can bond somebody, put them on the first flight out of Lagos or wherever, and the next morning they're back into the arms of the abuser, even apologizing on your behalf. So many reasons, honestly, you know, so many reasons.
This brings me to the issues we see on social media, where some people will talk about how their friends, sometimes I think it's their personal story, but how, you know, how their friends relocate to, you know, some foreign country, especially in Europe, and after relocating, either the wife or the husband changes, and then there's a divorce that happens. Would you say it's because the person has suddenly become aware that they are enduring something they really ought not tolerate?
Yes, it's basically that, because the truth is, if we are One way that we learn to deal with abuse is to dissociate. So you downplay it. You know, you tell yourself it's not really abuse. You make excuses.
I deserve it.
Exactly. You blame yourself because people who abuse people, they have a way of making it your fault.
Yeah.
So if I insult you, it's your fault. If I hit you, it's your fault. You know, so people...
You made me say it.
You made me say it.
Do it.
Exactly. You made me do it. So they blame themselves. But you can't, you know, be in denial when everywhere around you, you see how people are being treated. And then perhaps there might be, you know, portions of your life where people actually treated you with some level of decency. And you begin to recall who you were. Because sometimes people... it's like they become a different person in an abusive relationship. So you might even start to remember who you were, you know, before this abuse. And then you are now in an environment where people don't tolerate that kind of thing. Yes, you will start, you know, saying to yourself, I deserve better. And of course, that could lead to the breakdown of the relationship.
So in what ways can people in abusive relationships find help? Find that, you know, either to help their partner get help or get help for themselves. For
themselves, okay. Helping your partner get help, that's completely out of your control. I mean, you can't help somebody who doesn't even think he or she has a problem, you know. And you also want to, so even sometimes people would say, oh, I'm going to get help. You want to be sure that you are safe, right? Because somebody will say, oh, I want to get help because they see that maybe you're about to take a walk. So you want to be sure that this person is really, you know, serious while keeping yourself safe. So as for helping someone else, you really can't do much. You can advise, you can, you know, urge them, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to seek help. For you, you have to come to that point where you understand that what is happening to you is abuse and that you deserve better. Right?
Thank you so much for your time, Michelle. Right. It's been a very interesting conversation.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.